Good morning, everyone. This is Commissioner Bell. Today is Tuesday, July 30th, 2024, and we'll call this meeting to order at 8 a.m. As a reminder, our call-in number is 971-254-3149, conference ID 866-914-607#. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone to mute your phones. You can do this by pressing star 6. Please unmute yourself when called to speak, again pressing star 6. It's very important for all others to remain muted. Thank you. Well, welcome everyone to the Board of Commissioners Community Update Call, and I will start with good morning to my fellow commissioners. Good morning, Commissioner Olson.
Good morning, Commissioner Bell. We're here and ready to go.
Fabulous. And good morning, Commissioner Scar.
Good morning.
Okay, we will jump right in with the Coastal Caucus because Adventist Health Tillamook and Eric Swanson are not available today. Do we have Senator Weber? Give her a moment to unmute. Well, if not, how about Representative Javity?
I'm here.
Yay. Good morning. Good morning.
I'm here. That's just that I expected that Eric would come on, and so I was on the other side of the house, and so I had to run and unmute myself. Sorry about that.
That's okay. We're glad you're with us.
Thank you so much. Well, we had some rain. I saw that Astoria had a half an inch. That was good. We didn't get nearly that much, but boy, all of the plants in the garden are just perking up and happy, and you can see the green grass starting to react, and it's nice. Plus, it's also saving on my water bill because I'm not out there watering, but it's good.
Yes.
I had a busy week last week, working on issues regarding the Hunger Task Force and the report we're putting together for the Senate committee in September. I had a meeting last week with ODOT to talk about what we can possibly hope for as far as funding regarding Highway 6. And right now they're not giving me much hope, but you know, I have that tattoo, that famous tattoo that says "Born to Nag," and so I'm not going to give up on making sure that we have some funds at least to be able to begin to fix Highway 6. You know, they tell me, well, we're just going to continue to maintain that 31 to 35, and I believe that they will honestly work at that, but I think there are other things we desperately need on that highway. So I'll be working on that. I went to Warrenton last week to meet with state police union leadership and talk about future legislation and issues that we have, especially on the North Coast, regarding infrastructure and highways and going forward with the deflection programs all over the state. It was a very interesting discussion in the afternoon. I also met with the governor's office last week to talk about school funding, forestry funding, county funding as the possible proposals as a result of the HCP, the Habitat Conservation Plan. And there will be additional meetings, as Commissioner Scar knows, and we'll know more in the future as to what the governor is going to advocate for to continue funding these important initiatives that we have that, you know, make sure our state runs. I also had a meeting with my group of chronic absentee committee members. And what we are doing is we're looking right now at what is happening nationally to address this issue and looking at how different states are working to be able to get kids back in school. at a much higher percentage than they are currently. One program was from Rhode Island, and they have really worked with the Chamber of Commerce's to get our kids back in school, show kids how important it is to be there, and support teachers also. On Saturday, we had a really great Garibaldi Days. Oh my goodness sakes. It was so good to see all of the people out. I think we threw 25 pounds of candy. So, it was good. It was so nice seeing all of the people in Garibaldi and seeing all of the local people also, and getting to talk with the mayor and see her twins and how they're growing. On Saturday, then, at the end of the day, I was in Camp Rylea. I don't know if any of you remember, but I had a resolution that went forward from the Senate with a lot of support to honor Private Kenny Liston with a road sign. He was a young man who 20 years ago was deployed to Iraq and killed by an IED. And he was much loved. He had a wonderful sense of humor. He was a hard worker. He wanted to go to college, and he felt that by deploying to Iraq, it would increase his chances of being able to go to college and get a degree in psychology. And so that's what he was working for, and he didn't make it back. And every year at this time, because Sunday then was the anniversary of his death, his unit gets together and has a reunion at Camp Rylea. And in the morning when they dedicated the sign, there were about 50 people there. There were about, I'd say 25 to 30 that stayed in through the evening for a barbecue and to sit around and share memories of Kenny and their time overseas and what, has happened to their lives, in the last year. Because they, you talk about a band of brothers, this truly has become a band of brothers that supports each other. And I came home with a wonderful feeling. And once again, our American Legion and our VFW are there working to support our returning soldiers also. So it was a really good experience, a good time getting to know these folks. And Kenny's family was there also, and they were very grateful for the honor for him. And then yesterday I was in the Marion County Courthouse because the lawsuit concerning the readability that was filed quite some time ago, over a year ago, was heard by the judge yesterday. Now we'll wait for a decision to see what's going to happen going forward. I think it's really important that if we have passed a law is on the books, that we follow that law. And evidently this particular law that I am referring to, the Readability 171.134, has not been followed since the 1980s. And so we'll see what happens, because what's the point to passing a law if you're not going to follow it, or if it's not important? So we'll see what happens. It was a nice turnout for that. Today is also Peter Courtney's funeral, and Peter Courtney, longest serving member of the Oregon legislature. And what a guy. I remember the first time I heard him speak. It was when we as mayors had Mayor's Day at the Capitol. And he pulled no punches. He stood up there and he issued a diatribe to us to get out there and get some work done that I'll never forget. And he was a huge advocate for Oregon. He was a very fair man. It didn't depend. I mean, his decisions didn't depend on what party you were a part of. His decisions depended on whether it was best for the state of Oregon. And he's missed. Besides the funeral today, there will be another celebration of his life at the Capitol in the near future. So he will be recognized and honored. And it was funny because even when he wasn't the president of the Senate, if somebody had a question and they didn't feel that they got the right answer, they'd call him up and he always had an opinion. So very valuable man in our state. This Wednesday, I'm going to go down south and have dinner with Representative Gomberg. We have some things we have to talk about going forward for the coast. And then there is the Coastal Caucus meeting this week. So we'll have issues that will come before the Coastal Caucus. We haven't put together the agenda yet, but it's important that we as a coast work together. And then, guess what? We're getting ready for the fair. It'll be so much fun. So that concludes my report for today. Once again, I could go on and on, but I'll stop right there. So thank you for the opportunity, and if you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Senator. I always enjoy listening to your reports. Thanks for your continued work on Highway 6 for funding over and above maintenance. I think I agree with you completely that that is essential. It's essential to our farms industry, not only locals and travelers, but it's the main route for businesses to get their products in and out. It's disappointing to me that it isn't on ODOT's priority list, but I understand why, because it's relatively small, but it is extremely important to us in multiple ways.
Well, it's interesting because people are always saying, we need to attract industry. We need to attract big business. We need to have all this here. If we don't have secure routes to the valley where everything is coming from, we're not going to have that industry. We're not going to have that economic development.
Yeah, exactly. I appreciated at the transportation summit that we had here 6 weeks ago or so. I really appreciated what Joe Yank said about when he asked folks from ODOT if there could be a budget, a set aside budget, a guaranteed budget for Highway 6 projects. And not, what his point being, you were there, I think you heard him, but maybe everyone who's listening didn't, that to actually rebuild Highway 6 in a area that won't move or change as much is prohibitively expensive, and it just seems impossible to imagine that would ever be funded. So if we're not going to move the highway, then let's create a revenue, a funding stream, a pot of money that just does the repairs regularly. So I thought that was an excellent point, and I hope they heard him and are taking that into account, because we really can't, economically, we can't survive without it.
Yes, and there is going to be a final one of those meetings in Hillsborough. And I don't know, I don't have the date exactly right here in front of me. But, we were one of the first meetings. And I think that it's going to be important that we are at that meeting to advocate once again for all that we have needs for. Because, it's been 2 months. Will they forget what we have said? We got to remind them.
Good question. Yeah, good question. Hey, do you want to talk a little bit about the readability law, just in case you mentioned it, but just in case people don't know what it is or why it's important?
well, in 1979, there was a law passed that said that the summaries, not the bills, or not anything else, the summaries for the bills had to be written to an 8th grade level according to the Fleisch reading schedule. And this is in the Senate rules. It's one line that says that summaries will comply with this. Well, when we got to looking at the summaries, because there were some bills that have a lot of things in them, but the description in the summary was so hard to understand about what was going to be in the bill that, we started to question the fact that this is an 8th grade reading level, and in checking, our bill summaries were not written to an 8th grade level. So I challenged it on the floor of the Senate, and my challenge was denied, and I appealed it, and my appeal was denied. My contention is, if you have something in your Senate rules that says you must comply with this law, and this law exists, then why ignore it? When you have the ability to be able to provide those summaries at a level that an ordinary person can read and understand. And so that's why we have been going forward with this, because what kind of a precedent does it set to say that, oh yeah, we'll pass these laws, but we don't know if they can ever be enforced? Oh, then why pass the law? Why have the law on the books if it's not going to be something that you're going to pay attention to? And so that's why we have gone forward with this. Now, the state says, well, we've changed our ways and we're now doing everything at an 8th grade level, so it'll be fine. But what does that say going forward? How long will they be doing fine? I feel that it is important that we guarantee that if you have a law, you either follow it, you obey it, or you get rid of it. So
Good
that's
point.
in a nutshell what it is.
Well, thank you. Good point.
Because
I
we have seen,
Go
we have
ahead.
seen lawmakers stand up and advocate for their bills, and then the bills pass. But in the advocating for the bill, they have said things like, I don't know how we're going to enforce it. I don't know how we're going to ultimately make sure that this law stands and is obeyed. But people voted in. And there it is. We have to live with it. And then we have to live with how is it going to be enforced. And then that they don't come back and say, oh, we made a mistake, let's undo this. They don't do that. So
Right. Yeah, it's difficult, that's for sure. Well, I
Yeah.
appreciate the intention of that law, just because especially in the long session, there are so many bills, there's so much legislation that when the average citizen or commissioner tries to read all of the things that you're working on, the legalese in which they're written makes it difficult, which just makes me think that, oh, attorneys are writing all of these. Of course they are, but they're also writing the summaries in legalese. So
Yeah.
I think at least the summaries should be comprehensible to the average Oregonian.
Yes, and when you have an omnibus bill that comes from a committee that addresses 25 or 30 different things, how do you summarize that so that everybody can understand what's in there?
Mm-hmm. Good point. Yeah, well, thank you for working on that.
Because that there are a lot of bills that are over 200 pages long. And is everybody really reading that?
Probably not.
Does an ordinary person, when they see this, oh my gosh, this is 217 pages long, I'll read the summary.
Yes. Yeah, I think you're probably right about that. Well, I wonder you were also talking about the, hello, was somebody jumping in?
No, I'm here.
Okay. You were also talking about the funding that will, the Forest Trust lands funding. And I wondered if you and Commissioner Scar want to give us an update on that.
Well, I have talked with Commissioner Scar about it, and then I was approached by the governor's office to talk about it, and the reason was we have 4 different school districts in my district that are heavily influenced by the timber tax and timber revenues that come off of the Tillamook Forest and the Bossip Forest. And so there's 3 distinct possibilities of how they're going to have the backfill from the loss of funds that our counties will experience. And it's important that the governor is cognizant of all of this and working on all of this. And that's why I was approached to make sure that I was in on all of the information and their decision-making process. The schools that are heavily impacted in our state by our timber money are Nestucca, Neahkahnie, Jewel, and Seaside. And so, how are we going to make up the funding that they lose? Where's it going to come from? The governor is very interested at this time in looking at school funding, and we'll see what comes of that. So how we can equalize all of that to make sure that those 4 school districts especially don't lose anything in the mix, nor the other school districts whose money will also be going toward that won't be cheated in the mix also. But then, how do we fund our forestry? There's a price tag of about $22 million that will not be coming to us as a result of this. What is that going to do to our forestry? What is it going to? Well, we already have heard many times over, the possibilities of what's going to happen to our county funding. So there are some real heavy decisions that need to be weighed and made as a result of the Habitat Conservation Plan. And it's another one of those things that not all of the consequences of the action have been taken into consideration. And as Rep. Javity will tell you, there were several other plans that were in the mix, but this is the one that was chosen. It's got a 70-year long time that it's going to be in effect. So how are we going to mitigate that? So I'm sure.
Excellent questions.
Commissioner Scar will have more to add on that.
Thank you, Senator. You have done a great job of covering it. We really are struggling to figure out how we respond to the Habitat Conservation Plan without having damage to our counties, our special districts, our schools, the forestry department, all of it. And it is complex. In relation to the 3 options for revenue replacement, the school option is one that's being explored right now. We do have a meeting next Monday with the trust land counties, the governor's office, and representatives of the Oregon Department of Education to explore that further. It has been put on the table by the governor's office, but not been fully vetted with the Department of Education and the trust counties in the same room, so that we can make sure, to your point, that there is no damage done to our school system. We do know the governor does have an interest in updating school funding. She's put forward one proposal so far, which does not include any piece of what we're talking about that I could find, but that'll be part of the conversation, certainly with her office at the table next week. Will be, is this tucked in there somewhere that we're not seeing that makes it certain that our schools do not see a reduction in funding under this. So
Right.
there's a meeting planned. It is for next Monday in Salem. So I will be down there on Monday and just making sure that we're speaking out in support of our school districts, because Clatsop and Tillamook counties are unique in the amount of timber that goes to those 4 districts, and therefore the opportunity for them to be damaged in this particular scenario if the state is not ironclad in its commitment to maintain the funding to those schools. If timber is not going to be the source, we need them to be ironclad in having a source and keeping the levels the same. So that is the conversation that we're in now, and we'll continue to push forward in. And I will certainly let everybody know where that comes out after that meeting. I think the other thing, we talk a lot about the Habitat Conservation Plan and reduced funding, and it's very difficult to predict. So what we get every quarter is we get a prediction from the Department of Forestry as to how much revenue they will be sending to Tillamook County based on the sales that are out there and what's been harvested. So we received a projection that in April for what would be released to us in June, and that they projected they would be paying us $4.7 million. And that was a combination of the county, the schools, and all the special districts, and it gets spread out from there. So their projection was $4.7 million. The check that came in the mail was for $3.4 million. So it was 1.2 shorter than what we were projected to get. So this is where the challenge of timber comes in for all of us, and in how we use it in our budgets, et cetera. Now, we may get a larger check next time, but we don't know that. And it just means it's really challenging to figure out how this is going to land, particularly as we talk about the expected reductions of the Habitat Conservation Plan. So we continue that work, and we'll continue that work to make sure that everybody here stays as whole as we possibly can. Thank you. And thank you, Senator Weber, for being in that conversation with the governor's office. We need to make sure that she is hearing from a variety of voices in this conversation.
I agree.
Well, thank you both. Do we have anything else for Senator Weber? If not, we can check in with Representative Javity. Are you with us this morning? I know he could not make it on the last 2 calls, but I was hopeful to see him or hear from him this morning. Well, if not, we will move on to Tillamook County Community Health Center.
Hi there, it's Ed with the Health Department.
Good morning, Ed.
Good morning, Commissioner, and good morning, Tillamook County. Well, it's easy to forget about the health of your skin, but it's an important organ, and finding changes in your skin, such as new moles or other marks, can be an early sign of skin cancer. Melanoma is a type of skin cancer that is the deadliest type, but it is also very treatable when caught early. People with melanoma have a 99% survival rate when treated early. This changes to 30% after the cancer has spread to other organs. So because we're in summertime here, it's best to check your skin at least monthly for any marks that look new or different from other marks. If you get something, especially if it looks like it's changing, get it checked out by a medical professional. And now you don't have to travel far or wait too long to see a doctor specialized in skin health. We have added a dermatologist, Dr. Dale Westrom, to our team at our Tillamook location. He diagnoses skin problems from mild to severe. Appointments are available on Wednesdays from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. with availability in August. So give us a call, 503-842-3900 to schedule. Dr. Westrom will also be a featured guest on Tillamook Today on KTIL coming up in August. So tune in later this upcoming month for more sun safety and skin protection tips. Now, as we gear up in anticipation of the fair next week, we do want to share a reminder, COVID-19 is still spreading in Oregon, so please just take caution by frequent hand washing, staying up to date with your COVID-19 vaccine boosters, and then staying home when ill. Free test kits are available at the Health Department front desk and at Tillamook County Public Libraries. And the COVID-19 vaccines remain available from medical offices and pharmacies around the county. And then International Overdose Awareness Day. We're excited to announce that we are once again partnering with Blue Heron to host the International Overdose Awareness Day in Tillamook County, along with several community partners. This event will take place on Wednesday, August 28th from 4 to 7 p.m. at Blue Heron, where we will gather to remember and honor lives lost to overdoses and renew our commitment to overdose training and prevention. The event will feature live music, community resources, activities, and a free meal and t-shirt will be available to the first 100 people. So be on the lookout for our flyer for this event coming out soon. That's our health department update. I'll turn it back over to you, Commissioner.
Thank you so much, Ed. Do we have any questions for Ed? I think it's wonderful news that we're going to have a dermatologist practicing in Tillamook. I don't even know when was the last time a dermatologist was available in Tillamook, and so it's really great news. I personally was referred to a dermatologist recently and had to go to Astoria. So I think people have been going well out of town to the valley, to Astoria, or maybe point south to see a dermatologist for some time. So that is terrific news, and thank you for letting us know. Do we have Gail Nelson with us from Nehalem Bay Health Center?
Gail was unavailable this morning, Commissioner Bell.
Oh, thank you. And how about Frank from Tillamook Family Counseling Center?
Good morning, Commissioners. This is Frank Hannaway, Tillamook Family Counseling Center. To just give a little brief update in terms of our location here. We are currently, if you come to the agency in our 906 location for services, and you will see that we are in the beginning processes of doing the renovation of the 904 site, which is the old La Ciudad Tea Shop that we purchased, and that is being renovated to accommodate our developmental disabilities program. And we're after a period of time of doing a number of things, the renovation has started, and we anticipate that being completed by the end of the year. But we're very pleased to get started and have worked with an architect and are very excited about the possibilities of connecting our developmental disabilities program with our counseling program in a very close location. And so if there's some disruption that you may see when you're coming, that is a part of that, and it is work in progress. So if you have questions or regarding services, appointments, please contact us and call. That's 503-842-8201. And that's my report for this morning, and we'll take some questions if you have them.
Thank you, Frank. That's great news about the La Ciudad building. I'm glad that's moving forward. Do we have any questions for Frank? If not, I will say thank you. And we can move on to emergency management. Do we have Randy Thorpe with us this morning?
Yes, you do, Commissioner.
Good morning.
Good morning. Well, I just want to start off with mentioning that if you have not signed up for emergency alerts, please do so. It's very, very, very important that you sign up and are able to receive the emergency alerts that are sent out. The way you can do that is if you go to the County Emergency Management website. On that first page, there's a link that you click on, and it'll take you into the alert sign up, and it's through Nixle Everbridge. Or you can just Google Tillamook Alerts, and it'll bring you up the web page to go sign up. It's well worth your time. It'll take you a few minutes to sign up because there's a lot of information in it that they'd like to get as, as far as address, how you want the alerts to be sent. You can also determine which types of alerts that you want to receive. So it's very beneficial to sign up because you can customize the types of alerts that you get. And it's very important because things like evacuation notices are sent over that. Other types of emergencies that happen within the county can be sent over. And yes, they sometimes get way more alerts than what you want, but me personally, I'd rather get too many alerts than miss those very important alerts that could be life-saving. So anyway, just a shameless plug to sign up for Tillamook County Alerts. Also, the Safety Council offers some safety tips specific on preparing for earthquakes, floods, hurricanes, which we don't have too many here, tornadoes, which we do have a few, and how to minimize fire risk. So that's another website that's got some great information on it. Other websites like ready.gov and the NOAA National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration sites have some great resources there. So I suggest that you visit those quite frequently. The Safety Council has recommends some general precautions that you may want to take. And short list here is to make sure at least one family member knows first aid and CPR. Make sure you go to FEMA sites too and download any resources that they have that'll help you in planning for disasters. Definitely have your family communication plan and make sure that everybody in your family is aware of that plan, and to try it out occasionally. Make sure that everything is working all right. Make sure that you have those important phone numbers, written down, or if you're young enough, you have them memorized. So that's also important. And have that emergency kit in your car with you, along with your go bag in your house, and have at least, about 3 days of food and water at your home. And of course, those important documents, you need to make sure that you have quick access to those, or that they're stored in a very safe place, such as your birth certificates, insurance policies, and the like there. And the other thing that's important is know how to shut off your utilities. Here, it's not that important. We, a lot of it is just with the electricity, but a lot of people are using propane and oil for heating and use, and so knowing how to shut those off in an emergency is very, very, very important. And kind of a final note of interest, I mentioned this at the last TC4 meeting, is that the Department of Emergency Management here in Tillamook County will be gaining the services of a resource assistant for rural environments intern through the AmeriCorps project. And that will be starting in September. Reasons why I really like to get this word out too is that she will be looking for housing here as for her and her cat. So it would have to be a place that accepts cats. And so if anybody out there listening has any leads on some good, reasonably priced accommodations, please just get a hold of me and I'll get that information over to her. And like I say, she's due to start the first part of September and will be here through July or August of 2025, just depending on if she's got her required number of hours that she has that she can work here. So that's the exciting news too, but we're also, I told her that I would help and see if we can, beat the bushes out there and see if we can find some of those housing out there for her. So anyway, with that, enjoy the moisture in the air. As Senator Weber said, it's kind of nice to have some rain and green things up a little bit. So with that, I'll turn it back to Commissioner Bell.
Thank you, Randy. I will also ask folks that I know who have rentals or know of rentals, and it just really illustrates the shortage of rental opportunities here in Tillamook County, that that folks want to come here to work, et cetera. And the challenge really, the main barrier is finding a place for them to live. And I'm super excited for this intern to get to work with us because we have so much good work to do in emergency preparedness and so many groups, excellent volunteer-led citizen groups in multiple communities doing this work. And Randy is one person, so he can't work with all of those groups to do the work that they're doing. And he's trying, but it's not, he just can't spread himself that thin. So we have a long list of things we hope to accomplish with this intern, and I'm super excited for her to get started. Well, I believe Representative Javity has joined the call, so I'll invite him to jump in now.
Thanks, Commissioner. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Welcome back.
Hey, well, thank you very much. Just wearing two hats this morning, just working on some fixing the world, saving the world from cavities, but have a little break here and thought I'd jump on the call. I did hear most of, all, I think, of Senator Weber's updates. I'll try not to duplicate here. She does a wonderful job of keeping us so informed and touching on a variety of issues. I'll piggyback on just a couple things because I think they're worth everybody, putting a fine point on, especially since I know how big a deal they are for our community. That's first one is Highway 6. I mean, it is really frustrating to sit in those meetings and to take them on those tours and to look at what our needs are and to get almost like a blank stare back or just kind of empty platitudes because we really need those roads fixed. And this is one of my frustrations isn't really Democrat versus Republican, in politics, although sometimes it can be those policies, but it's more of this like dynamic between what the rural counties need and what the I-5 counties get. And, we see all this money getting put into the bridges and I-5 repairs, and those are important. It's a main artery to get interstate commerce and transports to, our goods from the creamery, for example, and the mills out to where they need to go to market and vice versa for us to get goods in. But, if we lose Highway 6, it's not like we've got, great backup options that will be as effective. And so we need to continue, and I know we will, I know Senator Weber will, as well as I and others, continue to push for money. And I thought that Joe Yank's suggestion, fit really well into that discussion about having that dedicated fund. So we'll continue to look for all sorts of options. I know nobody wants to have their taxes raised. I'm hoping that we can find ways, where ODOT doesn't do that, and instead we look for how we can, work within the money that we're already taking out of people's pockets at the gas pumps and through fees and from our truckers, et cetera. So we'll continue to spend some time on that. And then the other big one is and we were just kind of talking about it with affordable housing. And we've had some updates lately, and I know I missed the last couple of weeks. I'm sure it was brought up, but the new FEMA maps, the BIOP info that we're getting from the feds is going to make it even more difficult to build affordable housing and to work with the limited resources we already have. And it's kind of frustrating because we're trying to work really hard at the state level to remove red tape, and you get the federal government coming back in and adding more red tape and making it even harder. And, like, for instance, Warrenton, I think under the new maps with the new rules, I think they had to add 1,700 properties to their list of that fall in the flood zone now, which makes it even harder for them to develop. And any project that takes anywhere not just in Warrenton, but anywhere in our district or in the United States, it takes federal dollars, like a FHA loan or a VA loan, et cetera. All those are going to have to play by these rules, and it's going to make it even more difficult for people to get loans and to, just to build a home or to buy a home that's already existing or to add on or to make changes to your barns if you're a farmer. And so I hear the frustration. I'm getting lots of it in the emails. There's not a ton we can do at the state level about it, but we are pushing back looking for alternatives, maybe lawsuits, et cetera, to put the brakes on the implementation of these FEMA maps, which are moving forward. They're not fully enforced yet. We're still going through that public comment period, et cetera, but they are concerning and on my list of concerns. In addition to that, and I don't know that I won't spend a ton of time on this, my schedule for the upcoming weeks packed. We've got a town hall meeting up in Clatsop County on Thursday. We're going to be talking about FEMA of all things, the transient lodging tax, which for those in the know realize that's the money that we comes into the county and goes to the state as well when people come here to spend the night. We're trying to figure out ways to get more of that money to stay in the county so that we can work on our infrastructure like roads and parking lots and you name it, law enforcement, et cetera, that we need. The HCP, I was on the same call with Senator Weber, and while there was some encouraging words from the governor's office on how we might be able to make the county budgets viable, when we pivoted to talk about what the impact is going to be on our private economy, there were no answers. There was definitely the recognition that it's going to be a problem, but they didn't know how to solve it. And I wish, as we were talking about the Habitat Conservation Plan, we tried to have this conversation for the last, at least a couple of years I was on it. I know former Commissioner Yamamoto discussed this. It's how, let's get answers to these questions. The budgets for the county, the impact on the mills and the truckers and the loggers, and then everybody else who services those. How are we going to deal with that? And instead, we just kind of went ahead with a plan, one of many that didn't answer those questions. And so we're scrambling. And I wish I had some soothing words to say. I don't want to be an alarmist, but I do want people to know that there is a problem there, and it does have my attention and Senator Weber's attention, and I know the county commissioner's attention. And we're not happy with all of the possible solutions, and we are working on it. So it's still on the radar and still on the top of my priority list. Also going to be at the Clatsop County Fair this week. If anyone's up there on this weekend, that's a great fair. It doesn't quite reach the coolness of the Tillamook County Fair. I mean, we got a pretty awesome fair here in Tillamook County with the horse races and everything, and the auction, the pig and fords and the derbies, and then of course the cool rides. So we have I think a world-class fair here in Tillamook County next week that I'll be at. But the Clatsop County Fair this week, it is a good time. So if you're up there, keep that in mind as an option. I've gotten some emails this week. Unemployment continues to be slow. So if you've lost your job, whether you've had to, quit or move or for a variety of reasons, know that it's going to be a delay before they get your unemployment benefits. And if you're having trouble, please reach out to my office, and I will contact the agency for you and see what we can do to hurry that along. Other emails I've gotten are about minimum wage. People feel like there's not enough of a living wage at that level, and they're hoping that can be increased over the next several years. I'm sure there'll be discussions on that in the upcoming session, but I don't have any new info about that. But I did want to know that it is something that I'm aware of, that people are concerned about. And I kind of a public service announcement. The WSIA, which is an organization that kind of deals with water sports, has updated their information online, and you can find that at WSIA.net. And that has all sorts of safety resources for people who are using the waterways in Oregon. I encourage you to go there. It talks about all sorts of ways to make sure you're operating safely on the water. And they asked if we would just put that out there as a resource for people on the coast who might be visiting or who live here. And so I encourage you to go to that. That's WSIA.net. And then the last thing I've got here is, and I don't know if we talked about this or not on the call, is a ballot initiative that's earned. Well, it's an initiative that's earned its way onto the ballot. It's called IP17. Just in brief, this is a new tax that will be voted on in November by the voters. The tax will be applicable to businesses again. So if you remember the corporate activity tax, which was a tax on businesses that grossed more than $1 million in revenues. They had to pay a percentage of that, and that was a big deal. It put a lot of burden and stress on small businesses who already had, small profit margins. The biggest issue with that is that the tax, unlike your normal income tax that was affecting the bottom line, which is, after you paid all your expenses, made your payroll, et cetera, paid for all your supplies and cost of good, then whatever was left over, you pay a tax on that. This, the corporate activity tax taxed the top line. So before you paid any expenses, you were taxed on that top number, your gross receipts, which sometimes people, businesses don't have enough money left over at the end of the day to even pay more tax. Well, and then that money was supposed to go to education, and some has. We're still not spending the money correctly, in my opinion, in Salem, and so there's some more discussions that have to come about how we do that, and we're looking at bills for the corporate activity tax to raise the limits on that, so the businesses have, who are impacted are businesses that are, generating more than $1 million in revenue. But the new bill, IP17, or initiative that we're looking at here, is another tax similar to the corporate activity tax. Will be on the top line on revenues instead of income, and it's going to have another huge impact on adding more burdens to businesses. The nice, I guess, if there's a silver lining to this one, it doesn't impact businesses that are only generating $1 million in revenue. The income limit's higher, but we have several businesses in Tillamook and Cottsville County that will be impacted, and namely the creamery, the mills, possibly the hospitals, et cetera, will now face this new tax. And why I'm concerned about this one, and everybody else should be, it's that these businesses are already struggling with increased cost of operating on all sorts of fronts, especially on payroll, et cetera. And as we continue to tax our businesses like this, they're going to have to, look at their operations and decide how that's going to impact everything from who they hire to how much business they do. And I'm concerned that as a whole in Oregon, we're continuing to make the business environment less friendly. So as we're trying to attract new jobs here, to do business in Oregon for a variety of reasons, to keep people who are already well trained here, but also our youth who are going to college and then are looking for jobs. Would love to keep those people here in Oregon, and it's difficult to do that when all the businesses are moving out of Oregon because they can pay less tax if they're in a different state. And so there's a bunch of economic impact and effects like that. You can imagine if a community like ours lost something like the mill or the creamery, for example, which I'm not saying would happen, but you can imagine the impact on our community a business like that would have, or a move like that would have. I want to continue to make Oregon a place where we encourage business to come and participate in our local economy, not discourage them. And so taxes like this are a concern. Again, this one will be voted on by the voters. This is out of the legislature's hands. So as your state rep and Senator Weber's as your senator, we can't stop this or vote no against it other than like you at the ballot. So I encourage you to get informed, but look into it. Feel free to contact me if you have some questions or concerns, and we'll talk about that. But that's all I've got for now. Looking forward to seeing everybody get prepared.
Rep. Javity, can I interject something into this conversation?
Of course.
Well, thank you. This is an initiative that is paid for by several billionaires and millionaires in California. This is not an initiative that is coming from Oregon. And what the result of it is that they are saying and using as, the carrot out in front is that each household, depending upon how long they have been a resident in Oregon, will receive $750 a year. So that is how the money is going to be allocated. So we were a guinea pig for the East Coast when 110 was brought to us, and we didn't read to the bottom of the page to see what was going to happen. This is an initiative that is being brought to us by California. And is that what we want? So there you go. My 2 cents.
Thank you, Senator.
Well, thank you both. That is interesting. Thanks, Representative Javity. We missed you the last couple of weeks. You had a lot of interesting things to report on. And I'm just wondering, I'm just caught by what Senator Weber said, why outside interests from California would be trying to influence Oregon in that way?
You know, I'm just going to stab at this, Commissioner, but you know, California wants to be competitive, and they're facing the same in their business markets and their economy, and they have to deal with the same struggles every state does. And when they implement these taxes on their own in their own state, it, you know, businesses and outsiders and people, you know, inside the state, outside the state, look and say, well, geez, you know, it might be less expensive if we were to move our operations to Oregon or to Idaho or to, you know, Nevada. And so, in order to discourage that, they'd like to level playing field. California would, and so they look at states like Oregon and say, hey, Oregon's a state that's, you know, got a similar political environment we do. This is something that maybe we could take up to Oregon, and then they would be like, you know, their tax environment would be like our tax environment, and would make businesses less likely to want to go to Oregon, vice versa. So that's part of it, I think. The reason they want to do it. Other than that, I don't know what some other motivations might be. Again, this is money that will not go to benefit state services. This is money that will potentially be used as a rebate to go back into households, which is honestly a nice thing and a selling point for people as they're coming to the ballot. They're thinking, great, I'm voting for $750 in my pocket, which is true, but they're also voting against, you know, the business right down the street, like the creamery, who's going to pay, 1 to 2% on the top line, which is going to mean, how does that, I mean, we have to ask ourselves, how does that impact the people who work at the creamery, the farmers who depend on the income they receive from selling milk to the creamery, et cetera. At the end of the day, will people lose their jobs? Will there be less room for pay raises at the creamery? So for people who work there, what are the impacts economically besides a check once a year that per household? And so I think that's what concerns me, is that it looks good, looks like we're getting one thing, and we're not thinking about, we are thinking about it, but we need to have a conversation about what is the impact on businesses in our already kind of strained economic situation on the coast. I mean, we're talking about the Habitat Conservation Plan and the impact that's going to have on our mills and on our loggers and our truckers. And now we're going to add an additional tax on top of that for IP-17. We're also talking, we got ODOT talking about taxes to pay for, at the gas pump, as well as increased fees on our truckers for every mile they drive. So all I hear Oregon talking about in California at this point is, how do we get more money out of the pockets of our businesses, and therefore and the people who work for those businesses, and rather than talking about how do we make it so that we create an environment where people want to invest in Oregon, where we can pay higher minimum wages. I mean, how do we honestly expect our businesses to pay a higher minimum wage when they're out of money because we've taxed them to death? So I don't like the bait and switch. I feel like we're getting potentially a benefit that seems is cool for households, but we're doing it at the expense of businesses, which really means we're doing it at the expense of the employees that work at those businesses. And is there a better way to get $750 into the pocket of each of our households? Can we just lower taxes a little bit, like by even 0.5% would probably put more in the pockets of our employees and citizens in Oregon, rather than an additional tax that then gets redistributed to people? So those are my concerns with it. And practically speaking, from a business/tax policy idea, and I'm grateful that Senator Weber brought up that issue about it coming from California, but also how they're going to use it to get people to vote for it, rather than to think about the impact it might have economically.
Thank you for this conversation. I had not heard about that. So this is a great example of the ways that we learn interesting things on this call. Thank you both.
You are welcome.
Do we have any questions for Representative Javidi? Well, if not, I'll say thanks again for joining the call, and we can move on to the Board of Commissioners. And let's start with Commissioner Scott.
Thank you. Yeah, very interesting conversation. I had heard about that ballot measure, and I would just really encourage everyone to remember that ballot measures, while they appear to be the will of the people, are sometimes not, as has been expressed how this is funded. And the other piece of it is remembering Measure 110 and the fact that the way it was written was just really, really poor as well. I mean, right after it passed, it took a whole bunch of fixes from the legislature just to make it enforceable, let alone the final fixes that really reversed it. So it's great that we have that voice as voters, but as voters, it's so important that we are very, very well informed about what we're voting on, and that we take the time to really dig deeply and learn before we cast our vote. So I appreciate that conversation as well. Okay, a couple things that I'll talk about. We were awarded here at the county a grant for $3.78 million to support housing development, which is really, really exciting. This is a grant through the US EPA for climate pollution reduction is the name of the grant. And what it supports are housing units that are built with environmentally friendly building processes. And we're really excited because we have 2 housing developments in the pipeline that we know of up in the Manzanita area. One is an affordable project, which we've talked about here before, and the other is a workforce project that was also have talked about here before. And they are both projects that the Housing Commission has already put some catalyst funding into. They will both qualify for this funding, which is really exciting to us. So we will be running a competitive grant project through the Housing Commission to award these funds in case there are other projects out there that will qualify that where maybe aren't on our radar yet. And this may bring our project to town and get it on our radar. So it's, again, very exciting. So over $3 million available to be awarded to environmentally friendly units that are well built. So very exciting for Tillamook County. There will be more information and conversation about this at the Housing Commission meeting this month. If anyone's interested, Thursday morning, 9 o'clock. It's a meeting you can attend in person out at the port, or it is online. You can get the link at the Community Development website. So again, great meeting. More information on that grant if you're interested. I had an opportunity, I think it was last week, to attend a meeting around childcare here in Tillamook County. And I know I have said a couple of times in the past that we're getting close, we're almost there. So this was an exciting meeting because it really sort of kicked off what we hope will be a significant effort toward adding childcare units in, childcare slots, sorry, still in my housing hat, childcare slots here in Tillamook County. The report was commissioned by the Creamery Association, working with a consultant who is an expert in childcare, and it was backed with support by the Adventist Health Tillamook Hospital, Hampton Lumber, and Tillamook Bay Community College, in addition to TCCA. So those businesses have joined together in partnership with childcare providers that exist currently to try to craft a plan that will lead us to more units or more slots of childcare. And the study did a broad look at what is working across Oregon and other areas in the Pacific Northwest to increase childcare. What are the strategies that have been utilized, that are really making a dent? And they identified 4 strategies that we'll be working toward here in Tillamook County. So there is an affordability strategy, which is around subsidies to make sure that child care providers either have enough money on their own that they can charge a rate that families can afford, or a subsidy that goes directly to families so they have enough money to pay for the child care. It's kind of two ends of the same stick, right? But how do we get more money into the system? Stabilizing our existing slots, which is business training and coaching with many of our child care providers who are home care providers and tend to be providers because they're caring for their own kids and they'll take in other folks' kids, but it often loses money for them as opposed to being a vital job, a vital business that they can rely on. So some business training and coaching around that, so that hopefully once their children are in school, child care providers in the home will continue to be child care providers, as opposed to having this constant turn we see, which is folks, once their kids go into school, then they return to the workforce in a different industry. We want them to stay in this industry. Workforce development, which is working with training programs, working with the college here, working with our existing child care programs to help people receive the training they need so they can become certified in child care, so that we can expand our slots here. And then creating new slots, which is really going to be looking for a number of folks who want to do a new center, providing some seed funding, training, et cetera. So there are four goals that are set or to work in those areas. One of the things that this study also did, which was really helpful, was to do a really significant situation analysis to say, how many slots do we really need in Tillamook County? Because that's so often a question. And in looking at the population that we have, in children that are 0 to 4 years old, we have just over 1,600 students. And right now we have 322 slots. So there is a gap of 969 childcare slots if we were to make one available to every child that was not yet kindergarten age. So that's a long way to go, but I'm excited with the partnership. I'm excited with the energy around it, and there will be more to come. So just kind of a heads up that what we've been long awaiting for has come out, and we're excited to work on it. With that, I will end because we're running kind of long today, but I will see you all at the fair. Thanks.
Thank you. And Commissioner Olson.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. I'll be brief as well, if it's possible. I'm not sure I can be brief, but I'll try. I did want to mention Senator Peter Courtney. I've met him on several occasions and sat in his office, and he's one of those people that you meet every 5 or 10 years who seem to get things done. The first time I met him, I thought, this guy is half crazy. How did he ever get to the Oregon legislature? Well, he did, but he's also one of those people that if he hears a good idea, he doesn't much care where it came from, whether it's Republican or Democrat or something else. He'll take it forward and make it happen. And so he will certainly be missed. And I think we've all met people every so often that just seem to make a difference, and he was certainly one of them. So with that, I'll go on with the county fair. I won't go into a lot, but it starts a week from tomorrow, August 7th. There are 3 really, really good performances on the main stage on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then Saturday, of course, is the demolition derby. Now that's been around for many, many years, where cars smash into each other and a good time is had by all. Horse racing every day at 1 o'clock. And by the way, horse racing is quickly becoming something that's almost rare in Oregon. There are only 3 left. One, I believe, is in Grants Pass, one over in Cook County and Prineville area, and then here in Tillamook. So that may not be around forever, but certainly it's going strong this year, and the horses are there. I think some of them have already arrived. There is a fair board meeting tonight, by the way. Other entertainment and things go on for the whole week. It's one of those events where part of the county just shuts down. People go to the fair. You'll see signs on businesses. They're closed and at the fair. So plan on going to the fair Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday next week. A couple of other items. Someone asked me at a meeting, why is the county buying a building for courts? And when they don't have any money and their budget issues, working through those. So the question was, why? And so my answer to him was basically that we don't have a lot of options. The state requires in the state of Oregon that counties provide safe, secure, adequate space for the court system, including the district attorney and support functions and support court staff and so on. And of the 48 court facilities, there's only 36 counties, but there's 48 court facilities across Oregon, and Tillamook has been ranked 44th out of 48, meaning it's pretty near the bottom. So there are here now a number of safety issues, logistical issues, and keep in mind that when there is a trial, sometimes there are people who are in custody who are bad actors of one sort or another, and there needs to be protections for the staff, the jury, the attorneys, and the public. And so we've tried on at least 2 occasions in the very recent past, one out by the jail and another here in the courthouse complex in downtown Tillamook, and weren't able to put it all together. But what's happening now, the county has entered into a definitive purchase agreement with the owners of a building where the Bureau of Land Management has been for the last 30 years or so. And it's right across the street from the main entrance to the fairgrounds. If it all comes together, and that's always a big if, because we've hired engineers to look at the structural integrity and also some traffic analysis and other things that you do before you spend money. The county will acquire the building, and we have $1 million from a federal source, I believe, but we will need to borrow $2 million, and we'll do that just through a bank loan and then pay for it out of the general fund. What that will do, it will possibly relieve some of the rental payments that we make around Tillamook, where we have a variety of agencies in rented space. We might be able to bring them back into the courthouse. So that's the thinking behind it. And it's not something we're just doing because we want to do it. It's actually a requirement of the state of Oregon. And this seems to be the best way economically going forward. So more to come on that as it develops over some time. Last couple of things I'll mention. Our radio system I've talked about before, and we'll talk much more about it, but we do have a booth at the county fair. So if you want to know more, you can come over to the booth, and it's pretty close to the Tillamook ice cream in the main building, so you'll be able to see it. And we'll have people there who have some information that we can hand out. We'll talk about the issues and what it might cost you as a taxpayer if the bond is successful, and a variety of other good, current, truthful information that will help you make your decision on whether to vote for a bond to support a new radio system or not. And then finally, the budget. We do have a meeting next Monday with the leadership group at the county and our budget committee, which is 3 outside individuals. And we're working through a process to look at ways to either increase revenue or decrease expenditures, or both, likely both. And we've got over 50 alternatives on the table, ranging from some fairly short, simple ones, like maybe we shouldn't issue passports anymore, although that's a good service to provide, and maybe we actually make a couple of dollars, to the bigger issues. Should we go to a 4-day week, and should we ask voters maybe for some kind of support for a sheriff's public safety levy? All those issues are under discussion. Nothing, absolutely nothing has been decided, but it's a fairly big deal, because if you look out 3 to 5 years, we are tens of millions of dollars short in the general fund, partly because of the changes in timber harvesting and a variety of other issues, including inflation. So lots more to come on that over the next weeks and months as we work through all that. So I think, Commissioner, with that, I'll just be still and hand it back to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Well, on the subject of budgets, last week we had a meeting with the cities in Tillamook County, with mayors and city managers, and we talked about the possibility of asking voters to raise the TLT tax. TLT is transient lodging. And the idea about that would be that the last time, well, when the TLT tax in Tillamook County was initiated, was voted in, was 10 years ago. And the rate is 10%. So we're talking about raising the rate, and our what we would like to do with the money that would be available to the government, to the county, because in TLT the legislature has established that 70% of TLT taxes need to be spent on tourism facilities or tourism promotion. So whatever revenue that we raised, 70% of it could be spent on those things, tourism facilities, of which we have many. So there are all kinds of exciting investment opportunities there, like the fairgrounds, for example, or we've been talking about a conference center, or, there are a lot of opportunities to invest in tourism facilities that tourists could use when they come, and also the community would enjoy, and that would significantly benefit the economy. And then with the 30%, what we're talking about is public safety, because what we found, as Doug was just saying, there's a forecasted shortage in the general fund, and the biggest expense in the general fund is the sheriff's office. And largely, everyone in Tillamook County very much values the sheriff's office and the work they do, and feels like we need more of that work and not less. But it will become increasingly difficult to fund those services. So we're looking for ways that we can fund those services, and it seems logical to look to visitors, because the pressure on public safety services that comes from visitors is tremendous, and associated revenue does not come from them for public safety. So the general fund, the sheriff's office, is funded based on property taxes. And so, we have approximately 27,000 people in Tillamook County, but we have at least 127,000 on summertime weekends, probably more than that. And so the sheriff's office has to respond to all those calls. So, and emergency management has to plan for all of those visitors if we have a disaster in the summer, et cetera. So there's tremendous pressure on public safety that comes from the visitors. And I'm not against visitors in any way, but I think we need to figure out how to fund the services that they require when they're here. So that's what we're thinking. What if we go to the voters in May of 2025 and ask for an increase in TLT in order to use the 30% on public safety? So we had an initial meeting with the cities last Wednesday, and I think we had representatives from every city. It was a robust conversation. We talked for about an hour and a half. We talked about, because the county collects TLT tax, but also the cities do individually, because the cities are unique governments. And so we talked about what we're thinking and how that could work moving forward. And there are a number of options, and they're not all fleshed out yet, but we wanted to bring the cities into the conversation early, let them know what we're thinking, what we're looking at, and figure out ways that we can partner, because of course the cities experience the same issues about providing services to visitors who are coming here. So that was very interesting, and I was very grateful for the participation with the cities and partnerships with the cities, and I look forward to continuing those conversations. A couple of cities have already reached out to me to have continuing conversations, and I look forward to that. I also wanted to mention that we're planning another Great Shakeout tsunami evacuation drill. We did one last year, and countywide. It was very successful, particularly last year was the first time we'd done it in about 10 years. And so it was very successful for that. I think over 500 people participated. And the idea is that the Great Shakeout is something that happens nationwide every year in October. It's October 17th at 10:17. So it's 10:17 at 10:17 a.m., which hopefully helps people remember it. And the idea is that nationwide we're practicing an earthquake drill, and additionally here we're practicing tsunami evacuation drills. So all of the little communities that will be isolated islands in that kind of emergency have their own tsunami evacuation routes, and they were practicing their tsunami evacuation routes after the earthquake drill at 10:17. You have the earthquake, you have a couple minutes of shaking, and then you evacuate. And so we had terrific participation in that last year, and we're going to build on that and have another one this year, and hope that even more people join us, because what we learned, what the world learned in the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and subsequent tsunami in Japan is that the people who survived had practiced their evacuation drills, that in Japan they practiced their evacuation drills regularly, in the daylight, at the nighttime, in all seasons. They practiced them all the time. So they immediately knew what to do, where to go, how to do it. And those people got out of the way of the tsunami. And so we lack that experience. I think it's entirely likely that a lot of tsunami evacuation routes in Tillamook County are overgrown with blackberries, or people don't know where they are, or we don't have go bags ready, or we don't have a family plan. So these are the kinds of things emergency management is working on, and lots of volunteers in Tillamook County are working on. And so we'll hear more about that as we approach October and the opportunity to drill together on that. But this kind of practice will be essential to our survival in that kind of emergency. And I wanted to mention, because Dan Haig asked me to. Dan Haig he works for Tillamook Coast Visitors Association. He's fabulous at his job. And he sent me a flyer about a meeting that's coming up for the Salmonberry Trail. He couldn't be here today to talk about this himself, but he asked me to announce it on this show, and then I'll ask him to come on and talk about it again before the event. But the event is Sunday, August 18th in the afternoon at the Tillamook Creamery in the Red Barn. It's from 2 to 5. It's about the Salmonberry Trail. So everyone who's out there, who's listening, who is excited about the Salmonberry Trail, and I think there are a lot of people because we hear from them, put this on your calendars if you can. They're inviting family, friends to come for the afternoon, learn about the trail. I'll just read it. It says, join us. Oh, I need to make it bigger now. Join us for an exciting afternoon. Oh, heck, sorry. I just lost the flyer. Never mind. Okay, here it is. Join us for an exciting afternoon. Bring your friends and family and come enjoy snacks while learning about the Salmonberry Trail, its local partners, and what this trail can do for you at our Getting the Boots on the Ground event. Conceived over 15 years ago, the Salmonberry Trail is an 82-mile rail trail project that will run from Banks, Oregon to Tillamook. This trail aims to connect communities, offer safe transportation alternatives, and provide accessible outdoor experience. It supports public health, local businesses, and so much more. In the last 2 years, this effort has reignited old friendships and sparked new partnerships. We've written numerous grants, including a raised grant application for Rockaway Beach, and explored the wildest parts of the future trail. Expect an afternoon filled with dynamic updates and engaging stories. We'll outline clear paths to joining this incredible journey. Let's make the Salmonberry Trail a beacon of what we can achieve together. So again, that is Sunday, August 18th from 2 to 5 at the Tillamook Creamery. I think we'll get a lot of questions answered there about, the 82-mile trail is very long. Some of it is here local to us. Some of it crosses the Coast Range up into the valley. What parts are happening? Like, I'm sure that the project is segmented, and what are we working on in Tillamook County, and how can people get involved, et cetera. So I think there's a lot of momentum happening now for the Salmonberry Trail, and a number of us hope that that at least some part of it will be on the ground in Tillamook County in the next 5 or 10 years. So fingers crossed on that. And with that, I will move on to the cities and invite Manzanita. Do we have Mayor Stock with us?
You do. Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning.
I've just got 4 short updates for this morning. We're very excited to be having our first meeting tomorrow with our Citizen Advisory Committee for our comprehensive planning work, which is kicking off and will be about 2 years worth of work from beginning to end. So we'll be discussing with that group, who represent a wide variety of folks and interests and history in our community, how best to communicate and engage with the members of our community, which is, of course, the city of Manzanita, also the people who visit here, who love it here, who have second homes here, and also our adjoining community. So we've been looking forward to this for quite a while, so that'll be tomorrow afternoon. We're also very pleased to announce that after some diligent searching, we have been able to fill our operations manager position for Public Works, and we're very very pleased about that and looking forward to welcoming a new member to that team. We're also going to be welcoming a Hatfield Fellow from the University of Oregon. This person will be joining us to help with communications and some of the work around our comprehensive planning efforts as well. So that'll be a limited time engagement, but some much needed help to do a really good job with outreach and connection with the community. And then finally, I just wanted to note a member of our public works crew who is also a firefighter will likely be going out on his second deployment this week to fight fires in other parts of Oregon. We want to wish him, his family, and all of the firefighters out there working right now our very best. And that's it from Manzanita.
Thank you, Mayor. Do we have anyone with us from Nehalem or Wheeler? How about Rockaway Beach? Oh, hello.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Good morning, Mayor. We can.
Great. All right. Just a couple of things in the interest of time. The city is gearing up for the first of two Source Water Protection Plan town halls on September 12th at 5:30 p.m. Our consultant, GSI, will update our residents on the plan's progress and hold a Q&A session. Additionally, we have a second town hall. Our strategic planning consultant, SSW, will host our first strategic plan town hall on September 18th at 5:30. I'm excited to say we have over 526 responses to our community survey at this point. And then last, this is kind of a fun one, Ziply Fiber is considering expanding their network into the city of Rockaway Beach. This presents a great opportunity for much improved telecom internet services for motels, businesses, residents, and visitors. And our staff is working through some logistical checklists with Ziply, and we'll then invite them to propose a non-exclusive franchise agreement. That's all for Rockaway Beach. Back to you, Commissioner.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Do we have someone on from the city of Garibaldi?
We do.
Hello.
Hello, I'm Jake Boone. I'm the new city manager here in Garibaldi. Hi to everybody. I'm looking forward.
Hey,
to
welcome. We've been
all.
looking forward to, we've been looking forward to hearing from you on this call. Welcome to your new job.
Thanks. There's a certain amount of drinking from the fire hose I'm still doing, so I don't have a lot of, juicy details for y'all yet. We just had Garibaldi Days, which I think somebody already mentioned. It went really well. The rain politely stayed away until it was over. And we've got a big ODOT project coming up to, on 101 that's going to be causing some amount of short-term consternation, but I think long-term vast improvements. And largely just a whole lot of learning my way around right now. Anyone who is in need of a response for anything from the city of Garibaldi during all this transition stuff, if you haven't heard back, by all means, send me an email, citymanager@garibaldi.gov, and let me know that you're waiting for something from us. And I know we're short on time, so for now, I think that'll be it.
Well, thank you. Thanks for being with us. We look forward to hearing more from you in the future, and we also look forward to meeting you. So welcome. We've all been anxiously rooting, cheering for Garibaldi, and I understand that the community is really happy to have you on board.
Well, I'm going to do my best to not let them down.
All right. Thank you, Jake. How about Bay City?
Good morning, Commissioner Bell. This is Leanne Welch, Mayor of Bay City. For my report, so we've talked a little bit about the rain. So the burn ban is still on. So just letting everybody know out there that even though it's raining and it's a little wet, the burn ban is still in effect. The other thing I'd like to mention is that we're planning the Bay City Pearl and Oyster Music Festival, August 24th and 25th. And Sunday is the Family Day, which is really fun. And we're having a child's or kids talent show. There's different age group and there's prizes, money prizes. And so if you, you don't have to live in Bay City to be part of our talent show. So if you've got kids out there in our community, Tillamook County, please get a hold of Bay City and we will let you know how to register your children for the talent show. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you.
Thank you. That sounds fun. How about the city of Tillamook? Nathan George?
Good morning, Commissioner. I'm here.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much. Yes, just a few things. And the police department, Chief Trucks will attend the deflection implementation training session with representatives of Adventist Health Tillamook Hospital, Tillamook Family Counseling Center. This day was well spent together working towards what deflection looks like in Tillamook County. And though I'm no expert, what I understand deflection is helping people with substance use disorders to get some help before they get to a crisis of an overdose or an arrest or something, some other type of crisis. Sergeant Harrell, Officer Fitzgerald, and Levi Beachy with our Public Works Department worked with T-Mobile last week on transitioning all the police department cell phones and tablets to this new provider. The transition went as smooth as possible, as could be expected, I guess, and included not just the police department, but all of our city government-issued cell phones. So we're thankful for Sergeant Harrell's leadership and hard work on this project alongside Levi Beachy's hard work. And ultimately, this project switching from our previous provider to T-Mobile will save the city quite a bit of money, as this new change is significantly less expensive than our former provider. And our staff went out and tested different spots throughout the city before we switched and found that at least met or exceeded the expectations or service coverage area of the previous provider. So we didn't just switch based on cost. Inventory and barcoding, continuing with our property evidence. Our Executive Assistant Larson is working hard with Chief Troxel to get this completed. Sergeant Harrell and Officer Fitzgerald want to thank, and also we want to thank our Code Enforcement Officer Moreland for holding down the front of the office while they worked on this very important project. The Public Works Department, the Streets and Parks Division staff will continue to water and maintain our hanging flower baskets along Main Street and Pacific Avenue, in addition to performing routine maintenance tasks like street sweeping, pothole filling, and bioswale maintenance. Our Streets and Parks Division crew also removed parking spots on the south side of First Street across from Flavors on First to help keep pedestrians safe in this area. The new crosswalks we put down this week as well. That was actually an initiative of the council, and we want to thank them for really having a vision of safety within our city. As more sewer laterals are replaced and the city continues collaborating with contractors and homeowners, please be aware of the increased construction activity around town. And please join us on October 23rd at Goodspeed Park for the evening of community fun and family entertainment. The City of Tillamook is partnering with the Nehalem Bay Health Center to host a free, family-friendly resource, fair, and outdoor movie night aimed at encouraging engagement from our Latino population. The fair will feature a variety of local, community-based vendors, including a food truck. At 9 p.m., we'll be screening the beloved movie Coco, along with popcorn. This event is open to children and adults of all ages and abilities. Please bring your choice of seating, chairs, blankets, etc., and any snacks or non-alcoholic beverages for your enjoyment. And please let everyone know. We are excited to see you there. As we strive to maintain our parks as clean, safe, and family-friendly spaces, we have unfortunately been experiencing an increase in graffiti and vandalism in city parks and bathrooms. And this has led to extended restrooms and close repairs. If you see any suspicious or illegal activity, please call 911 as soon as you see it to report it. For all other inquiries, including maintenance requests for potholes, damaged signs, overgrown vegetation, any other matters, streets, parks, or public utilities, as well as general inquiries about projects, roads closures, city events, anything, please contact our Public Works Department. And you can go on our website, or you can also email at publicworks@tillamookor.gov. You can also call our main line and follow the prompts to the Public Works Department, which is the Public Works Garage, for the most part. For urgent matters outside regular hours, such as safety hazards, including falling in the trees, blocking roads or pathways, you can also call that main line, and they will get you to the on-call employee. We're excited to have filled 2 technician positions and our project manager/engineer position in our Public Works Department. So there'll be 3 new employees coming on board. We're very excited. We are excited to have these new employees start soon. At City Hall, our accounting clerk was successful in becoming the new planning technician, and our deputy city recorder was successful in becoming the new accounting clerk. So we want to congratulate both. That means the deputy city recorder position is now open and will be posted online soon in the near future. We encourage anyone who's interested in working for the city to check our website, stop by City Hall, or contact our Human Resources Department by email or phone. And I want to thank the Tillamook County Commissioners for inviting all cities in Tillamook County to discuss the important topic last week, which is strengthening the funding and revenue for Tillamook County residents, both cities and unincorporated county, by exploring additional funding from transient lodging tax. Our underfunded county and our cities affects everyone, both residents and visitors alike, but especially the residents who pay the lion's share for local services. I'm excited and looking forward to this opportunity. And all municipal elections for the city's website are live and will be through August 13th. Wards 1, 3, 5, and 6 are all open seats. To run for city office, the resident must complete the packet found on the city's website, or it can be picked up at City Hall in the office of the Deputy City Recorder through August 13th of this year. Please contact Tammy Heights with any questions. Reminder, if you see something, say something by calling 911 for emergencies and dispatch for non-emergencies. And the next regular council meeting will be held on Monday, August 5th at 7 p.m. We encourage anyone who's interested to come attend. Love to have people attend. It's great. And I want to just say I hope everyone has an opportunity to enjoy the Tillamook Fair next week. It's always a fun and wonderful venue, and my wife and I are even bringing some of her cousin and husband from out of town, so we're very excited. That's all I have, Commissioner. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nathan. I appreciate your report. Well, with that, I'd like to thank KTIL for broadcasting this call, as always. Thanks to everyone for participating, and thank you, Tillamook County, for listening. We are adjourned at 9:35 a.m. Have a great day, everyone.